Hey guys, I'm Addie with IdeateTV, and I'm here with Keith, the director of the Phoenix Incident.
Yeah.
And you call it a docu-thriller.
Yeah.
And it basically talks about the largest encounter that the world has ever seen,
Yeah.
the Phoenix. Okay, so tell me about what you've done with this film.
So the Phoenix incident is based on the Phoenix Lights, which is the largest mass UFO sighting that took place in U.S. history back in '97. And so we wove together this conspiracy thriller where we took actual footage and our own footage, and we wove together this narrative where these guys encountered what happened where the public didn't see what actually happened. So we brought in real military and real politicians and real eyewitnesses and news reports and wove that together. So it looks like it's a documentary, and then it becomes this thriller.
Why are you writing about this? Even though there's so many reports about all these different stories, why pick one specific big thing and focus there?
Well, the Phoenix Lights was probably the largest mass UFO sighting in U.S. history. Over 30,000 people witnessed it. And during that time was the Hale-Bopp comet was coming through. It was the closest it had been to the planet in 75 years. And all these things started to happen. There was this super high number of suicides, unexplained cattle deaths, all these disappearances that were happening. And then a week after this happened, the Heaven's Gate took their lives in the largest U.S. Mass suicide. So there's all these conspiracies about what happened, and two of the pilots that were involved in the cover-up also committed suicide and died. So we wanted to write a story that was sort of half based in the actual facts, and then weaving together this sort of what-if narrative with a more grounded approach to these human characters that are in the middle of experiencing all these crazy ideas of what was happening.
So what do you say about people who believe that aliens come in peace, that they're not here to hurt us, but then there's these incidents with cattle being dying and people killing themselves, like this effect of seeing these lights having on our people? What do you say about aliens coming in peace? And
well, a lot of it is your perspective. I mean, for us, my feeling is that if you have this superior race that's going to come here with the ability to travel here and communicate, the last thing you want to do is send up your military and try to attack that. And that's sort of what happens in our movie, and that's why our characters are sort of victimized by it. I think that when you hear about cattle mutilations and abductions and all these horrible things, that people are very intimidated and scared by that. But I also think it's also the perspective of how you're witnessing that. So for us, we wanted to kind of present a little bit more of a neutral case, in the sense that even though the movie is presented as a thriller and is very scary to some extent, it's also inspiring younger generations to do research and come out and actually look into the real facts of the case and make a decision for themselves.
do you think that some of the reports that have come through, like crop circles or the cow mutilation, that maybe had something to do with our government doing any of that to scare us from aliens?
My personal feeling is that the reason why we need to push so hard for disclosure is that our government probably doesn't know what actually is happening, and that there's always been concern about people crossing borders or protecting our airspace for other countries violating our airspace. But the moment that you have something that's coming into our airspace from above that we don't control, I think that's a big threat. And I think the reason why you see so many people in the military and the government being intimidated by the idea of aliens, or trying to make them seem a little less consequential, is because there's actually a fear that they don't control something that's going to be violating, that part of our security. So I think, when you hear these news reports that come out of the news or the military or the politicians who are kind of saying that aliens don't exist, or it's just kind of a silly thing and they try to make fun of them, I think that's actually covering up an insecurity for the fact that they do know that is a potential risk.
And do you think that they're in contact with aliens and trying to hide that as well?
I mean, to me, it's impossible to think that with this infinite universe with so many galaxies and so many billions of planets, that it would be naive to think that we would be the only intelligent life in all of that. It would be very lonely, I think, more than anything. So for us to exist without having the possibility of contact with something else would be very sad. But I think that more than likely, if there is intelligent life that wants to get in touch with us, I think they're probably waiting until we're a little bit more sophisticated and stop trying to blow ourselves up, and then maybe we'll kind of make contact. But I think that the disclosure that needs to come is more the fact that we're aware of them, and that we just need the evidence to be able to show that to the public.
And what made you first believe in aliens?
For me, I come from an engineering background. I always need proof. I always need some kind of physical evidence or something that's there. And even though I've seen things growing up in Arizona, and that's why I wanted to do this, based on the Phoenix Lights. But for me, I never had that same experience that so many people had. But over the course of shooting this movie and meeting with thousands and thousands of experiencers and eyewitnesses, everyone experienced something. And that's, I think, what has kind of changed my beliefs in the fact that these people had nothing to gain. They weren't trying to get on the news. They weren't there to be in our movie. Sometimes they never told anyone outside of their spouse or their family. So for them to share those experiences with us and being really shaken and just wanting answers, that's what made me believe that something's happening. And I don't have that answer, and that's why I think I'm making these movies and other things to kind of experiment and kind of start that discussion and having people research. But hopefully we'll have those answers soon.
Thank you so much, Keith.